Hello there, y'all. I am Rocky, aka Glacier Wolf Rockefeller, not necessarily in that order. And here I'm bringing you a deck tech for a deck I'm proud to say that I thought it myself, at least as far as I know. I'm sure someone else thought of this idea before, but I didn't copy it, I didn't even look it up, which may be a mistake, but I really am excited about this idea. And I think it could be pretty powerful if played the right way. So here is, I've been messing with this build a whole bunch since yesterday. This is a Purphoros token deck. So maybe you're wondering, Purphoros doesn't have anything to do with tokens. How is Purphoros and tokens going to work? Okay, so Purphoros is a legendary enchantment creature god. So he is indestructible, and as long as your devotion to red is less than 5, which are the colors of mana and the mana cost of permanents you control. So, for example, Purphoros has 1 devotion because he has 1 red in his mana cost. So if I get more cards that have more red in their mana cost, then my devotion builds up. And he's into a creature unless I have 5 or more. So then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under my control, Purphoros deals 2 damage to each opponent. This is the ability that we're looking at. This is the reason we're playing Purphoros, is because we have all of these tokens. Oh, so many tokens. And we're going to use all of these tokens entering the battlefield to trigger that ability and deal our opponent a whole bunch of damage on their face. Purphoros also has a ability, if you pay 3, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. That's like if we have nothing else to do, sure, why not? It's kind of expensive just for +1/+0, but still, that could be useful for something. So, since we're playing creature tokens, we might as well have Intangible Virtue, which gives all of our creature tokens +1/+1 in vigilance. It's enchantment, so just buffs them up as long as that enchantment's sitting there on the field. It's really nice. To actually get Purphoros out onto the field, we have Simian Spirit Guide to get some ramp, a Desperate Ritual, or set of Desperate Rituals, and Pyretic Rituals. So we're going to use those cards to get Purphoros out into the field as soon as possible. Turn 1 is possible if we have like 2 Spirit Guides and a Ritual or something like that. Turn 3 is probably the most likely to get him out. Turn 2, if we are lucky enough to have a Spirit Guide and a Ritual. Our goal is to just get him out as quick as possible. So we have 12 slots devoted to ramp. Because once he's out, then that's when we start swinging with stuff. As long as we can get him out before he's countered, which hopefully means we play first and we get out turn 2, then, and also that our ritual isn't countered, because it's Spell Pierce, then we can pretty much hope that he'll stay alive, because he's indestructible. Not many things will destroy him. It's really hard to destroy him, especially when he's an enchantment and not a creature. You have to specifically have enchantment removal that doesn't say destroy. So yeah. Because he still is an indestructible enchantment, even when he's not a creature. So moving on, let's look at some removal. We have 4 Lightning Bolts, 3 Path to Exiles. I don't want to go too heavy on the removal, because we're not playing a control deck. It's nice to just have it, though. We can burn our opponent in the face with Lightning Bolts if we need to finish them off. We have paths just to get rid of some pesky creatures that might be causing us some trouble. And just 3 of those. I was running 4, but I think I was going too heavy on it. I was drawing them when I needed to draw tokens. So, speaking of tokens, we have some token generators. We have Raise the Alarm, which is played in here. Yes, they are ground creatures, but this is an instant, so we can play it into our opponent's turn. Less likelihood of it being countered. We can play it maybe more unexpectedly from our hand, because a lot of token generators are sorceries. So just a couple of those just have some instant speed. We have Secure the Waste, which is mainly a finisher. When you have maybe like, 5 lands, then you tap that, pay 5, pay the X cost for 4, and put 4 tokens out, deal 8 damage to the opponent. A couple of those in there. We have Gather the Townsfolk, which is also sort of a finisher. 2 mana to put 5 out onto the field if you're at lower life. If the game has gone on long enough that you're below 5 life, then you can use that. Spectral Procession, all 4. Yes, it's heavy in white, because we're probably not going to be paying the 2 mana per one of those costs, because it's really expensive and we're only running 20 lands. But I think we can swing it, because we have a lot of planes, we have a lot of ways to get white mana with our fetches and our dual lands. So I think we can swing the heavy white cost in this deck. Triplicate Spirits. This is a card that I really, really like, granted that everything goes right, because you need to have creatures out in the field for this to really work. I've had games where I've had like 5 mana and 1 spirit out and cast it and had it be countered. You don't want that to happen. You die if that happens. So I'm running 3 instead of 4, because this is a really nice card, but it's expensive, especially if you don't have very many creatures out. Hopefully you will have a lot of creatures out, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So 3 of those. In the lands, we have Arid Mesa to fetch out the color of the mana that we need. Inspiring Vantage to get some early mana. Mountains, 3 mountains, 5 plains. The reason I'm doing this balance is because I actually want to draw plains over mountains for the most part, because after casting Purphoros, we don't need red mana anymore. We have no cards that we will need red mana for. Unfortunately, that does mean Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual, and Summon Spirit Guide become dead in our hand. So we can't play a second Purphoros because he's legendary. Well, we could, but it would do nothing. Nothing useful except waste mana. So unfortunately, I have come upon that problem where I've cast Purphoros, and I have Spirit Guides and Rituals just sitting in my hand, being kind of dead in hand because we have nothing else to cast for red. I mean, we could pump them into Triplicate Spirits, I guess. Other than that, though, that does become an issue, and that's something that I've noticed about the balancing of the deck, is that I was running Monastery Swift Spares to take advantage of the non-creature spells, but I wasn't casting enough non-creature spells to really make use of it. If I cast like 1 token generator, it's going to make the Swift Spear 2/3. And I ultimately consider that a waste of the 1 red mana. So I think this balance of lands works well for the balance of colors in the deck, but I do see an imbalance in the cards, and that would be something to work on. Otherwise, we have 4 Sacred Foundries. We can fetch out with our Mesas, get us some more white mana that we need, or red if we need that in the early game. Sideboard, pretty simple, pretty basic. I didn't actually have a sideboard in mind. I never have sideboards in mind when I'm doing these decks, which I probably should, because always, might as well be safe with a sideboard. I like to test decks out first before sideboards, but sideboards actually do help see what cards you want to run the sideboard for your deck. So I have some Pithy Needles to work against Planeswalkers or, the big Tron walkers. Kentucky Wars Rage, my personal favorite artifact hate. Yes, they can easily be removed, these Katakis, because they're 2/1s, and they're creatures. So easy to be removed. But I'm hoping to only play this basically against Affinity, or something that plays not very much removal. Because Kataki makes it so all artifacts have at the beginning of your upkeep sacrifice this artifact unless you pay 1. So what Affinity tends to do is empty out their hand in the first couple turns. They have all these 0-cost artifacts out in the field that they have to pay mana for that they don't have. Because they use, Affinity for artifacts on their cards, and they use a whole bunch of 0 costs that they didn't actually pay mana for. So it really helps to, kill their artifacts. And they have to pick and choose what they want to keep. Most likely they'll keep the Lords. Relay lines, all 4, just to make sure that if we go up against Burn or 8-Rack or anything that targets us directly, we're not going to have too much trouble with that. Stony Silence, it's an alternate way to deal with artifacts. Apart from Affinity, it can deal with, Relic of Progenitus, anything that would be causing you some trouble. Relic of Progenitus wouldn't cause you trouble specifically because there's nothing you play out of your graveyard in this deck, but anything that would just be annoying on artifacts. Wear and Tear, artifact enchantment removal. Anger of the Gods, if you're desperate, you don't really want to play this in this deck for the most part because you have a whole bunch of little creatures out in the field. If you really are desperate playing against another token deck or something that goes wide and you need to just have a way to remove them, if you Anger of the Gods in the sideboard, I might actually take one out because you don't want to play too many. Maybe put in another Stony Silence, another Pithy Needle, something like that. Relic of Progenitus you can actually play in this deck too, that would make sense. I just kind of didn't think about rough sideboard. Kind of rough main deck in a way. But if you want to see games of this with the deck as is, or if you have suggestions about how to improve the deck, it is annoying when you don't have Purphoros in hand because that means you're basically just playing a white-red token deck at that point. Kind of bad white-red token deck because you have the Rituals and the Spirit Guide still, which won't do anything for you playing your token generators. So, I mean, it's like, do you have to mulligan to get Purphoros, or do you just want to take the hand you have with maybe some token cards and some ramp cards that you won't ever use, maybe except for triplicate spirits? I found that when I decided to mulligan down to like 5 or something with Purphoros, the game played out fantastically. I was playing against spirits, so, I'd lost. But it was actually, I was doing pretty well against spirits with this deck, which is, top tier deck, or close to. So, I think that this deck, in general, the idea is pretty cool. Just the exact build might be a little iffy. Figuring out how to make it so you don't have those dead cards in hand. But let me know. What do you think of this deck? You think of what I'm calling Purphoros token burn, Purphoros token creature burn, creature token burn, whatever you want to call it. I got this idea from the Commander deck, the EDH deck, Purphoros, where you can play out a whole bunch of tokens and deal a whole bunch of damage. Purphoros doesn't become a creature because tokens don't give you devotion, so it's just kind of, Purphoros is trying to set as an enchantment, making it so you deal 2 damage to all your opponents when they enter. Anywho, let me know what you think. If you like these deck techs that I've been starting to do, though I'm trying to only do things that I've really kind of made or modified myself, because, well, if I just copy an MTG Goldfish deck, it's well, he's already done it. It's his deck, or he's already made deck tech of someone else's deck, top 8 or something like that. So I'm trying to do kind of original things, get into these deck techs. Let me know what you think of the deck, this specific deck tech, and if you like Cockatrice, the simulator I'm on. I personally really like it. It's free. I like the UI. It's all manual, but I don't mind that myself. And once you get used to the hotkeys, it's doesn't feel too bad to it's too manual or anything. So let me know what you think, and I will see you later, probably playing this deck. UI here, if you want to see the UI. See y'all laters.